So I was talking to a realtor the other week, and he was explaining to me why he's shifting his work over to selling a digital product. And once we got into it and I understood where things were going, he was not very happy with where those sales were. So I was talking to somebody who turned out to be a realtor. He was trying to actually sell a digital product and wasn't getting any sales with it. And we started talking a little bit about the real estate side of his business. And it got me thinking because it's really important for business owners, whatever it is that you do, to know who your 10 hottest leads are and who your 10 warmest leads are. Because if you don't have a pipeline in place of people that you can work with, then you're going to end up in those situations where you're saying you have no leads. And this actually reminded me, because I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, this reminds me of when I used to work in film and TV. So I had worked on a summer film a couple years back, and it was a Netflix movie, and I was an assistant to the director, and the director had just lost his father, like within a couple months of us starting production. And he happened to be somewhat religiously Jewish. And there's a practice called sitting Shiva, which means when somebody dies, you basically show up to shul every day, to a temple, and you pray for that loved one that had passed. And that is a very long process. I think it goes for like a year that you're supposed to be sitting Shiva, essentially, aside from the initial praying period. So anyway, the producer came up to me one day, and I'm just sitting at my desk. We were in pre-production. We weren't really doing all that much. We were just looking at locations and having a bunch of meetings and stuff like that. And the producer came up to me and was like, Matt, we got to figure this out. We've got a massive problem because the director has this religious thing in the way. How are we going to shoot the movie with this guy going to temple every single day? It's going to be a massive headache if we don't have a plan in place. And he's completely right. If you've ever worked on set, you know that the days are very early typically, and then they run very, very late into the day. And with a situation like this, you actually have to pray within certain times of the day. Like I believe you have to do it right before sundown, and you have to do it at sunrise. It's a whole thing, okay? I don't have it perfect anymore, but that's the gist of it. So anyway, I was tasked with probably the hardest job for the crew, in my opinion, which was I had to find people who were willing to travel to meet to pray with the director when he needed to. Okay, so think about the immense amount of pressure that put on me, because we were a couple of weeks out from starting the actual shooting process, right? So that means we were going to be out on location live, and I somehow had to figure out who it is that we were going to include in this and how are we going to make it work. And that's when I started reaching out to all of the temples in the area. We were shooting on Long Island, so there's a lot of temples to choose from, thankfully, and I just started literally cold calling each and every single one of them, putting out feelers and explaining the situation that we were in. And thankfully, I really got lucky because there were a couple of rabbis that were super keen on helping us out. And getting that initial buy-in was difficult because I just had to keep trying, right? I just had to roll the dice and try a bunch of phone numbers. And thankfully, I got a couple of hits, and we basically started building out a WhatsApp group. And I say a WhatsApp group because when you're running advertising like what I'm doing it to a DM message, right? And WhatsApp is one of those destinations that you could send people to. So I think it kind of correlates. So we were literally building out this WhatsApp group, figuring this out, and we started doing like test prayer sessions, if you could believe it, where the director would go to the temple in the morning. He would do his morning routine right before getting to set, and then during the afternoon and nighttime, we had to figure that part out. That's when people would actually come out to us. And we literally had to build a network of people that were willing to cycle in and cycle out, because for this prayer group, you needed at least 12 very specific types of people. You needed 12 men to be there. They had to be of a certain criteria to actually count, right? So we couldn't just like pull in crew members. We needed people that were dedicated to the cause, and we had to coordinate this whole operation, and that operation literally lasted the entire summer. So it's probably, I think, from June, I believe we ended shooting in mid to late August. And what would have happened if I wasn't able to do that? What would have happened if I didn't make all those calls? And truth be told, either he would have been very upset, the movie might not have gotten made. I could have lost my job. There's a whole bunch of reasons why this had to happen and this had to work. And I just wanted to point that out and tie it back to who are your 10 hottest leads, who are your 10 warmest leads, because when I was in that situation, I needed to know who I had, who was available on any given day to work with us, right? Literally shooting Monday through Friday, very early till after midnight sometimes. I had to literally coordinate with all these people and make sure that we never missed a prayer session, and we never did. And I'm really happy about that. But it took a network of people, and it took a lot of outreach, and it took a lot of cold calling to get there. And I always knew who my 10 guys were that I needed. And then we networked it out through word of mouth to find those extra people so that we never skipped a beat, really. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 times that we were short 1 or 2 people. I joined, and we had a couple of crew members that had to join. But anyway, if you're in this kind of situation where you're desperate for leads and you just need a win, the best thing that you can do is just start cold calling and start trying to see if people need your services and how you can help. And you can put it out there that, you're just getting started or whatever it is. You don't even have to run ads necessarily. If you want to do it the organic way, the best way to do it is post helpful content to your feed without paying for it, right? You could do that as much as you want. And just by putting that good stuff out there and just by cold calling, you're going to get yourself a lot of leads. And the moral of the story is you probably have more leads than you think. A lot of people think that they always need new people. And if I went into my situation always trying to get more and more and more people, instead of really honing in on the people that were willing to help me and building out from that base, it would have been impossible to do. So something to think about.